Buenos dias, buenas tardes, y buenas noches, bonjour, bonsoir, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater case. I want to dive deep into an article which is longish, but it's absolutely precious, given it's from the Daily Mirror and it's a long list of those that went searching for Jay Slater and found absolutely nothing. Now, this article was brought to my attention, and I will link it to this video. This article was brought to my attention because of the name Shane Yerrill. Now, I did a brief mention of Shane Yerrill yesterday and questioned why it is he is so on board with the Jay's Law petition and being a good chum of Debbie Duncan. What is it that has led this man to be so supportive of what I think is an awful agenda? That is silencing people that see fit to question and criticize anyone, grieving family or non-grieving family. But there we are, Shane Yerrill, humanist, humanitarian and politician. He's on board with that. But his name was also given to me by this contributor as someone that participated in the search. And I didn't know that Shane Yerrill was also a mountaineer. Apparently, he has scaled Mount Kilimanjaro. So, a man of many talents, it would seem. But I hasten to add, Shane Yerrill, after all his searching, he found absolutely no evidence that Jay Slater had been anywhere near that valley, that ravine. And that's true for all of them. The reason I keep hammering home this lack of evidence is because we get being told on the other side, the accident group keeps saying, well, you've got no evidence to us. They keep saying to the foul play group, you've got no evidence, you've got no evidence, you've got no evidence. It's a two-way street. And I think it's time for us to turn it around and say, but you've got no evidence of all of these people, from Cipriano Martin and his team of 30 people, all the way down to Shane Yerrill, expert mountaineer, Kilimanjaro and the rest of it. Not one of them found any hint at all that Jay Slater ever went down that ravine. So the lack of evidence, you can say, is on both sides. But very rarely do we, the foul play group, get to turn it around and say, here is your lack of evidence. Well, let's do that today. So we will dive straight into it. And there is some misinformation, I think, in this Daily Mirror article. Let me pull it up here if I can find it. And it is dated from, I think this is about 3 weeks into the search, if I'm right about that. Yep, here it is. So, let me just confirm the date first of all. Daily Mirror. Daily Mirror it is. Can't find the date. Where is it? I'm scrolling right to the very, very top. Got to be there somewhere. There it is, 13th of July. Now, the reporter is Tim Hanlon. Don't know anything about him. If I have time, I'll look him up. Tim Hanlon, Hanlon, news reporter, Daily Mirror, 13th of July. So, was that not the Saturday? Was that not the Saturday when Chris Pennington claims Jay was found? All right, so you can tell from the article Jay's body had not been found, but it was, well deep into the search period here. The headline says Team Jay. That's what I wanted to focus on, Team J, because there was a whole gang of people out there looking. Not one of them found any evidence that Jay had ever been there, and that is seldom mentioned. Team J, the full list of Slater family and helpers searching for the missing teen. Now, I will skip some of them. This is where I think there's a certain amount of misinformation, because if this is a full list of those that were looking for the missing teen, it starts off with the friends, Lucy Law. Now, Lucy Law, as far as I know, did not go looking for Jay. And by the way, I don't call looking this nonsense story about going up at night into the mountains saying, Jay, Jay. I don't call that looking for Jay. So, Mirror, you may want to reevaluate. Was Lucy Law one of those that actually went looking for Jay? Team J. You know, as soon as you put Lucy May Gregory Law under the heading of Team J, I think you're off on the wrong track there. Same with Brad Hargreaves, described by the Mirror as another close pal. Did Brad Hargreaves go searching morning, noon, and night for his best friend? No, he did not. Misinformation there, I would say, Daily Mirror. That is not part. Brad Hargreaves is not part of Team J when it comes to searching. Rachel Hargreaves. Well, she did go searching. But listen to this. It says Rachel Hargreaves, Brad's mum, Rachel Hargreaves, a school finance officer. Oh, hello. I think that's wrong, Mirror. Not off to a good start when describing Rachel Hargreaves. It is Debbie Duncan who was the school finance officer, not Rachel Hargreaves. You see, it is this nonsense that we get from the mainstream media that is so distressing to everyone involved because you know it's wrong. Now, if they've got that wrong, you have to ask yourself the logical question. If the mainstream media, in this case the Mirror, Mr. Hanlon, have got this wrong, a basic fact, Rachel Hargreaves, school finance officer, that is wrong, you then ask yourself, what other basic facts did the Mirror get wrong all the way through the story? It's quite a long list. But let's stick with this list of Team J. Rachel Hargreaves, school finance officer. Nope. Is a close friend of Jay's parents, Debbie Duncan. I would question that. And Warren Slater. I would question that. Who went to Tenerife to help. Miss Hargreaves is in charge of the family's official Facebook group set up to give out information about Jay's disappearance. Really? Really? That was the aim of the Facebook group, to give out information about Jay's disappearance? Or was the purpose of the Facebook group to withhold valuable information that was being passed to the Facebook group, if it seemed in any way contradictory to the narrative that Jay had an accident? You see, set up to give out information about Jay's disappearance, well, was it Rachel's Facebook page that specifically stated where Jay was at 8:50 on that Monday morning? I don't think so. She has shared updates and also been critical of wild speculation and abuse the family have received online. Wild speculation. She's been critical of wild speculation. Keep that in mind as we move on through this article. Rach was critical of wild speculation. Rachel, along with family members, have been putting up posters of Jay in an appeal to the public. Yeah. Apparently, Rachel's putting up posters in Santiago, a place, according to the narrative, according to the inquest, Jay never even went. So what was the point in doing that, Rach? You're putting up posters in a place Jay never went to. Why? You should have just believed the accident theory from day one, Rach. Ayub Kassim, why is he listed here? I don't see he's part of Team J when it comes to searching. Debbie Duncan, I don't think she went searching. So far in this list of Team J, all those that helped in the search, haven't really, apart from Rach, come across anyone that did any real searching. Yeah, we'll skip Debbie Duncan. As I said, I want to get on to the Shane Yerrill bit. Warren Slater. I think we need to read this one through. Warren Slater. Warren Slater has been pictured taking part in the searches. Now, Warren is definitely part of Team J. He and Zach, whatever you say about them, both participated in the actual search for Jay. So we've got to say the Mirror got this bit right. Yeah, Warren Slater, pictured taking part in searches of the harsh terrain near to where son Jay's phone last pinged before the battery died, and also in the nearby town of Santiago del Teide, where there was an unconfirmed sighting of him. Unconfirmed sighting. Surely, Warren, that was just wild speculation. Wasn't that wild speculation, Rach? This unconfirmed sighting? He has been putting up posters in Santiago del Teide and has also raised the question of whether he was kidnapped. Ooh, that does sound like wild speculation, Warren. There's absolutely no evidence, zero evidence, that Jay was ever kidnapped. And yet, for some reason, Warren, you decide to throw out there maybe he was kidnapped. This is the kind of wild speculation that Rach really didn't approve of and wanted tackled, removed totally from the Facebook page, apparently. Maybe this is the source of the Warren and Rach divide. Warren went on, you think? Has somebody got him? Because no matter if you were drunk or whatever, you don't go off that road up there. That's what Warren said. You don't go off that road up there. But at the end of part 2 of the inquest, Warren's nodding away saying, yeah, I've got a kind of closure. Accident it was. I got it wrong. Mea culpa, said Warren. Obviously, Jay went off that road. Wow. Warren 180. Referring to the mountainous area around Masca. Yeah. Dad Warren told of how the search for his teenage son is like a riddle he has no answer to. He told the well, and this is interesting. Warren has no answer to the riddle, but Warren, how many of Jay's friends and close associates, it looks like, Rocky, Ayub, how many of them did you question at length? We always go on about, did Debbie call Ayub? Did Debbie call Rocky? Did Debbie speak at length to Brandon about what happened? And we come up with the answer, don't think so. But same goes for Warren. Warren's saying it's like a riddle. Yeah, I have no answer, he says. But Warren, how deeply did you search for an answer? Did you speak to all these people? To my mind, ladies and gentlemen, you just can't say it's a riddle, I've got no answers, but not even try to get an answer. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Warren will come forward and say, I called repeatedly all of these people, they just refused to talk to me. Maybe that did happen. I somehow doubt it. But Warren says, tell me where to look. I can only go off the last sighting. The woman in that restaurant saw him going the wrong way. Which human being lets a young boy go the wrong way? Good question, Warren. Very good question. I tell you what, it's a human being that either doesn't care or is making the story up. But I think your point here, Warren, is the Airbnb host, you would think, would make sure that that young lad was going where she assumed he wanted to go. She would have, I think, done something. So, yeah, we back you on that point, Warren. But to answer your question, because you need some answers, it seems, Warren, what kind of human being lets a young boy go the wrong way? Someone that A, doesn't care, callous, uncaring, or someone who made the story up, is my answer. Yeah, I don't know the answer, says Warren. Brother Zach. Brother Zach, flew out to Tenerife shortly after Jay's disappearance, and he has been regularly with his dad Warren searching the land and towns nearby for clues, although he has not spoken publicly about the search effort. In fact, Zach has not spoken publicly about anything. About anything. And this is where Debbie's wringing her hands saying, oh, these nasty people saying Zach is too quiet. The reason we say Zach is too quiet, Debbie, is because Zach is too quiet. He needs to speak publicly about what happened. The fact that he has nothing to say, the brother of the victim, is, I think, very telling. That's the problem here, Debbie. Had Zach stepped up from day one and spoke his mind and challenged people to offer the right kind of information leading to Jay's discovery, then we'd have a better view of Zach. But his silence, I'm sorry, Zach is like a wet sponge. He really is useless. Not spoken publicly about the search effort. Not spoken publicly about anything. All right, so far in Team J, we've got Rachel Hargreaves found nothing. Nothing. After all those hours, found nothing. Warren Slater, after all those hours, all those miles covered with Millie and with the rest of them, found nothing. Zach Slater, all those hours, morning, noon, and night, searching, found nothing. We got 0 out of 3. No evidence from 3 hard-working searchers so far after a long period of time. You'd have thought that some of these people at some point would start to think, hang on, maybe he didn't actually come down this ravine. Maybe. Apparently not. They just kept searching. Wait till the end of this because you'll see there is one person that figured this out. Now then, Uncle Glenn, he's mentioned here. Glenn Duncan, 41, is the brother of Debbie Duncan, who has also been involved in the search, and he told Sky News that the family was in despair, but had not given up hope of finding Jay. So far, we've just been in touch with the British consulate out here who have been saying it's still a live investigation. We have just got to sit tight, he said. It's just adding to the despair, really. And on that front, I would totally agree with Glenn Duncan that sitting tight is not adding to any reassurance that anything's being done. As soon as you hear British consulate saying sit tight, it basically means nothing's happening in my book. He added, I'm not on social media or anything, so I can just block it out. It's the world we live in. If he's gone on a trail like a path like this and he's got lost there or fallen down, I think he would have been found by now. Absolutely, Glenn Duncan, he would have been found by now. So, if he wasn't found by now, what do you conclude? I've been thinking third-party involvement from the start. Hallelujah. Now, is this some kind of wild speculation, Glenn, that Rach is going to shove you off her Facebook page for? Yeah, third-party involvement doesn't fit the narrative, Glenn. Be careful. There's just some things that have already been out there, Why would two lads hire a villa up here? They're down on the strip. You know what it's like down there. Yeah, we know what it's like down there, Glenn. Good question. Why would they hire a villa up there? It's a shame the coroner didn't ask that question, hey? It's a shame Debbie hasn't asked that question, Glenn, when you think about it. Only you asked that question within the family. Spanish police. I'm going to skip this because this is obvious. The Spanish police did search at times. DTR said he was amazed how little searching they did do. If you remember on that day of the big push, DTR walked past them and got fed up of hanging around. He said, I'm going to actually do some searching. These people are just standing around talking to the press and taking photos. Yeah, so the Spanish police did search. So we can add that to the list. Glenn Duncan found nothing. Warren Slater found nothing. Zach Slater found nothing. Rachel Hargreaves found nothing. And the Spanish police found nothing. Okay, moving on. Lancashire Police, they're mentioned, but they're part of Team J. Well, they're not really. They didn't do anything. Don't know why they're mentioned. Here we go. Oh, now, she's given a mention, but she's not part of Team J. Given a mention is Ophelia, of course, Ophelia Medina Hernandez. Now, I mentioned what she says to the Mirror here because it's interesting. She says in the translated quote, he walked up the road. This is talking about J, of course. He walked up the road when I saw him for the last time. He was alone. He was walking normally, though he was fast, she said. Now, absent from that quote is anything about her driving past him. Let's read it again. He walked up the road when I saw him for the last time. He walked up the road implies she's in her house. She looks out. She can see him walking up the road. The absence of mention of any car driving past him tells me that when Ophelia first came out with this statement, it was all about just seeing Jay walk up the road in that wrong direction. So we've got to ask ourselves, at what point did she come up with the idea of saying, oh, no, I actually drove past him? Because these two are not the same. He walked up the road when I saw him for the last time. He was alone. He was walking normally, though he was fast, she said. Yeah, 11-hour hike. Better get moving. All right. The volunteers. Paul Arnott. Paul Arnott, another searcher who search, found absolutely zero. The list is growing of all these people that spent hours searching and they found nothing. Paul Arnott. You can read it in the article. There's nothing new that it mentions here. Callum Fahim. I want to read this one. People often forget Callum Fahim. Callum Fahim, TikTok star and keen hiker Callum Fahim flew out to help in the search for Jay, but has since returned following a dispute over receiving money from the GoFundMe page set up for Jay's family. Mr. Fahim spent around 2 weeks in Spain after contacting Debbie Duncan online. While he claimed he had not received any money, Jay's family hit back at the claims and said Debbie personally gave Fahim £740 of her own money for accommodation, but he turned bitter after she refused to give him additional funds. Now, who knows the ins and outs of this spat, this argument? I have no idea. What I am curious about is the specific amount is mentioned. £740. That is a specific amount. So, I would say that specific amount probably was handed over. Whether it came from Debbie's personal fund, I don't know where it came from. But I would say that's probably accurate. That Callum Fahim was given £740. Now, was he promised more? What was he promised? Was he promised anything? Is Callum to blame for this dispute, or is it Debbie, do you think? His family accused Fallon of coming over of his own accord for a free holiday. Now, this is where I think Debbie and Jay's family are wrong. I don't see that Callum went over there for a free holiday. I've got to be honest with you. Having been there, I was boots on the ground. It's not the kind of place you go for a free holiday. Not up in the mountains there. And wanting accommodation paid for. We appreciate every single person who's come out. He's a hiker. We don't need hikers. We need experts. How can you say that? We don't need hikers. We need experts. So, I mean, Warren, Zach, Rach, all these other people are actually experts. I don't see that DTR is an expert. The guy that lost his phone, his keys, his common sense. I mean, I don't think these people are experts. Let me guess. At some point, we'll read that Chris Pennington was an expert. All right, Juan Garcia. People forget about Juan Garcia. Mountain search, Army reservist Juan Garcia, who has mountain search and rescue experience. He felt compelled to help after reading Jay's story in a local newspaper. Juan, 53, who brought his Podenco cross hunting dog Caperucita with him, described the area as difficult and like a labyrinth. Yeah, if you remember floppy hat guy, a little thin, kind of bit hippie-ish looking Juan Garcia. Sounds like a good guy. He made a good point that he needs his dog because without the dog, Juan can only focus on making his next step in a safe place. You can't both step forward and search. So Juan's point was always, I let the dog do the searching and I just keep focused on, not falling down a ravine myself. So yeah, Juan Garcia, I would say he is an expert. He's a local. He's a good man, good searcher with Caperucita. Both of them, both the dog and Juan Garcia, after all their hours of searching, found nothing. Not a thing. No clue whatsoever. Now we get to the point that alerted me to this article, Shane Yerrill. Here we go. It says, the mayor of Waltham Abbey in Essex, Shane Yerrill. Now, some people are telling me that that's old news, that Shane's mother actually replaced him as mayor. I don't know if that's true, but could well be. So Shane Yerrill, mayor of Waltham Abbey, or former mayor of Waltham Abbey, who is an experienced mountaineer, previously climbed Kilimanjaro and Mount Olympus, is also helping the family. He said they're just living on hope. It's awful. They've got no answers. They don't know whether Jay's alive or dead. Now, Shane, when you say they've got no answers, are you talking about the same people that didn't even look for answers? They never called and spoke in depth with Jay's friends, with his acquaintances, with, anyone connected to where Jay was in those last 24 hours? Because if we're talking about the same people, Shane, they've got no answers because they didn't look for any answers. I keep repeating this. You can only get answers if you look for answers in the right place. He has spent 2 days involved in the search and plans to return. Shane was able to give an insight into what the family are going through. They are doing everything to find him. No, they're not, Shane. This is where you keep getting it wrong, Shane. They are doing everything to find him. In order to find Jay, you need to find out what happened to Jay. In order to find out what happened to Jay, you have to speak to the people that were with him. If the family never spoke to the people that were with him thoroughly, carefully, in detail, they're not going to find Jay. It's that simple, Shane. Come on. They're not just out for an hour, they're out all day. Yep, you can be out all day, all week, all month, all year, Shane. If you're looking in a place where Jay never went, you're not going to find him. This isn't rocket science. Yeah, 9:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. Shane, they could have gone from 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. the next day. They wouldn't have found him. We covered miles, but there's still a lot of ground to cover. Yep, always a lot of ground to cover when someone never even went there, Shane. Shane added, I feel for all of them, his dad in particular. His dad in particular, you got that right. I'm a parent, my child is only a few years younger than Jay. The whole thing is heartbreaking, not having any answers, they just don't know. Again, Shane, you'll get answers if you ask the right questions of the right people. That was your mistake. Didn't ask the right people the right questions. Mark Williams Thomas, he wasn't really a searcher, but Shane was. Shane was a big time searcher. Christopher Pennington, we'll read this. Former British military serviceman who moved out to Tenerife in 2006, Christopher Pennington has also been involved in the search and found some sunglasses. Finally, we have a breakthrough after all of these man hours spent day and night, week after week. No one finds a damn thing, but we have one person. Finally, this brilliant man and expert finds sunglasses in undergrowth, the Mirror says, not far from where the last signal came from, Jay's phone. And it has not been confirmed that they belong to him. Was it ever confirmed, Christopher Pennington, whose sunglasses they were? Or was this yet another example of the Guardia Civil taking possession of evidence and then saying nothing? Which one? Did we find out whose sunglasses they were, Chris? Or did it just disappear in some vault in some police station in Guardia Civil land? Mr. Pennington has been critical of the Spanish police, who he said just stuck to the paths, after assuming Jay did the same, insisting key evidence may have been missed that could solve the case. I'm interested in this, Chris. You say the Spanish police just stuck to the paths. Which paths you talking about, Chris? Which paths, plural? To me, there's only one path. You know, Chris Pennington, early doors, from the last ping of Jay's phone, exactly where that was. And it's just off the road at the head of the Juan Lopez ravine. That's where we know Jay last was. How many paths, Chris? How many paths are there that then go into the Juan Lopez ravine? There's only one. On the right-hand side, you and I have walked it, and Adrian too, all the way till the end. That's the one path. So what other paths are you referring to that Spanish police looked at? Are you referring to the path the other side of the road that goes up towards Las Portelas, that path? Because if you're referring to that path up there, then what's wrong with looking up that path? Why would the Spanish police be wrong in looking up that path? But let's just keep this question simple, Chris. When you say they've just stuck to the paths, be specific. Tell us which paths you're referring to. Give us the path name, the path coordinates, the path location, and we can look into it. Because I think you're making up bullshit here when you say paths. You know there's only one path. This area has not been searched properly. How would you know that? You did no searching for the first 2 weeks. How would you know, Chris Pennington, what had been searched properly and what had been searched improperly? How would you know that? I mean, if Guardia Civil gave you a map, you've surely still got that. You can take a photo and show us. Not going to happen, is it? He believes that Jay hurriedly left the holiday rental and he may have veered off down the ravine. That's not true. It's true that Chris believes Jay may have veered off down the ravine. Chris is sure that Jay veered off down. There's no may about it. The Mirror being, again, slightly misinformative here. Let's correct them. Chris Pennington is 100% sure that Jay veered off down the ravine. Chris Pennington has no idea why, but he's sure that happened, thinking the coast was closer than it actually is. He claims to have pinpointed the most sensible places to search. Yeah, Chris also claimed to, know where the last phone ping was, but he got that wrong. The whole list of things that he got terribly wrong. Yeah. Let's move on to the star of this article, Graham Wetton. Graham Wetton, already part of Team J, except he is in the sense that he was the one that gave us the most valuable insight. Now remember, people like Chris Pennington say, they say that. Chris says, I'm not a detective, Lucky's not a detective. None of us are detectives. Here we have a detective. Wouldn't you have thought that someone like Chris Pennington that keeps going around saying, well, I'm not a detective. Yeah? You think he'd listen to a detective? Let's see if Chris is now prepared to listen to what Graham Wetton said 3 weeks into this search. Graham Wetton, former Met police officer, Graham Wetton, who worked in the force for 3 decades. 1, 2, 3. Count them, Chris Pennington. 3 decades. Graham Wetton has been a detective. You going to listen to him or not? 3 decades has focused on what he sees as inconsistencies in the search. Quote, they seem to be focusing primarily on the fact they were told he wandered off into the mountain. But we are now 3 weeks in and nothing has been found up there, Wetton said on June 30th. Speaking to Mail Online, Wetton added, there are so many inconsistencies in what I am seeing and reading. I think the Spanish police need to take a step back and think, why did he go missing where he did? And in what circumstances? Remember, Wetton is only saying this 3 weeks in, but he's saying exactly what we're saying, foul play group, two years after. Why did he go missing? Where he did, and in what circumstances? Wetton said, I would even go back further to the days leading up to his disappearance. Have they checked his bank accounts for anything untoward in the hours before he went missing? Graham Wetton, at that point, no, they hadn't. But subsequently they did, Graham, and they found many things untoward. Good bit of insight there, Graham Wetton. You had a feeling something might show up in the bank accounts, and you, unlike Pennington and Co., were right. Were there any patterns forming to point to him going wandering off, but the fact he is said to have done just doesn't square with me? Let me repeat that. The fact he is said to have done, meaning just wandered off, doesn't square with me. In other words, Wetton saying, I don't believe these friends that said he just wandered off. I don't believe anyone that says he just wandered off. Wetton says, let's go back a few days. Let's look at the real evidence, things like bank accounts, to see if anything untoward is showing up here. And of course, it did. When the bank accounts and the details of what Jay was up to, the toxicology report and all that, confirmed exactly what Wetton was saying. It's the stuff in the background that will tell you what happened to Jay, not 30, 40, 50 people wandering around morning, noon, and night looking for signs of Jay. This case was mishandled from day one. We all know that. But hats off Graham Wetton for being the one voice in Team J that knew what had to be done way back then. All right, let's leave it there. As I say, I will link that article to this video. Happy reading. Hasta luego. Hasta la próxima. See you next time.